When I was a tiny little ink splatter, I didn't have a proper computer or discs to play games. Video games seemed too expensive and a waste of money, so I spent part of my childhood playing free games on my iPad. One day, on the advice of friends, I installed Plants vs. Zombies, and it opened up a whole new world of tower defense games. I was little back then, and I had no idea what awaited me in 2025. Hi everyone, that's Black here, and welcome back to my game corner. Tower defense. One of those genres I rarely play, but deep down love a lot. A simple, casual subgenre of strategy games in which the player must deal with the waves of enemies before they cross the map by building defenses. Typically, games of this genre look something like this. However, in 2009, the world turned upside down with the release of Plants vs. Zombies, developed by PopCap. This game was something completely refreshing for the genre, something new and unconventional. The game's premise is simple. You live in a house with a lawn in front of it. You can plant plants on the lawn, which will protect your house from waves of zombies. The game captured a huge audience and won over people thanks to its uniqueness. The variety of plants and zombies, the mechanics, and the unconventional approach to the tower defense genre set it apart from its competitors, so a sequel was only a matter of time. The second game introduced many new mechanics and features to the franchise. Now the player fought zombies across different eras. Each world had its own mechanics, unique zombies, and a multitude of new plants. The second Plants vs. Zombies game, while filled with microtransactions, was also quite good. However, it's still generally supported, making it a treasure trove for content creators. Besides everything else, Plants vs. Zombies also had spin-offs, if you can call it that, in the form of a card game, PvZ Heroes, and the shooter, PvZ Garden Warfare, which I love a lot, by the way. However, the more the franchise grew, the worse things became for PopCap. The release of Plants vs. Zombies 3 and numerous other bad decisions were slowly leading the franchise into the grave. Some even buried the entire franchise in the process. It seemed the situation was beyond saving, but then suddenly a new, bright, fresh, and juicy game appeared on the horizon. Plants vs. Zombies Replanted. Remasters and remakes of original games are typically made when the game has become outdated and needs to be updated or reimagined. The difference between remasters and remakes is simple. Remakes affect gameplay, in-game events, and other features. In addition to directly improving graphics, certain aspects of the game may be removed or changed. Gameplay elements may be reworked, and sometimes even boss fights may be completely changed. Remasters, on the other hand, focus solely on graphics. They're designed to update the game's visuals, presenting it in a new light and adapting it to modern monitors and devices without affecting the core events and mechanics of the game. Now, I've never been too picky about graphics. Even if a game is a collection of low-poly models, I'll still play it as long as I'm having fun. In my short life, I've played a huge number of different games and seen a wide variety of graphics and resolutions. And while modern game graphics look very cool, the trend for low poly hasn't gone away yet, which makes me happy. Wait, Black, why are you reviewing Replanted if you don't care about the graphics? What are you going to review exactly? A very valid question, my dear friend. Initially, I had no intention of making this video. More accurately, I simply didn't know what I was going to discuss here. However, when I saw the mountain of problems that accompanied the game, I realized it needed to be addressed immediately. But let's take things one step at a time. Plants vs. Zombies Replanted was released on October 23rd, 2025, and by the time it arrived, the game's reputation was already quite poor. It all started when AI was spotted in the game's trailers, which outraged many users, but PopCap insisted it wasn't used in the game. And then they were confronted again, and the developers admitted to using AI, but said it would supposedly be fixed by the final version, and that the artists would do everything themselves. These were just sketches. Well, let's see what they were doing. What the hell is this? Yeah, that was pretty much my reaction when I saw the price of this game, and believe me, those damn 20 bucks will be the stumbling rock for this entire video. I'm not kidding, that's a hefty price for a game like this, and you'll understand why by the end of the video. By the way, this is a perfect time to say that this video was only possible thanks to my friend Chrissy, who gifted me the game. If it weren't for him, I'd be too stingy to spend 20 bucks on it. No, like, really. So, the first launch of the game immediately revealed certain details that caught my eye. Firstly, the game lacks the Zombatar found in the first game. Secondly, the menu has been significantly modified compared to the original PC version. It reminds me of a console version of PvZ 1 and the mobile version too, by the way. I also forgot to mention that the loading screen also looks a little different. The zombies here are more stylized like classic Plants vs. Zombies than the original, but that's just a minor detail. When you first launch the game, a tutorial begins, allowing you to take a closer look at the lawn and spot some flaws. Firstly, this lawn is nothing new. The console version of the game already had these bushes, and there are even mods for the classic Plants vs. Zombies that add them. I'm saying this to show that the developers haven't come up with anything new with this type of lawn, in case you thought that they did something new for the remaster, I mean. Secondly, the lawnmowers. They are a separate issue, and in fact, until we have the entire lawn, they're noticeably less so. However, here are two magical photos demonstrating how visually polished the game is. Yes, in one case the lawnmower handle is obscured by the wheel, and in the other it isn't. Why? Who knows? What's more, the lawnmowers appear literally on the house texture, making moving them to the right spot look either funny or silly. The most interesting thing is that the console version, where the house is also visible, the lawnmowers spawn much closer to the path, which makes their appearance more visually pleasing. Thirdly, the plant seed packets constantly differ in design. Sometimes the plant extends beyond the packet's boundaries, sometimes they're within the frames, sometimes their edges are cut off to keep them within the frame. Some plants even practically overlap the Bloom and Doom inscription at the top. It's immediately obvious that this was done by using AI, which didn't even think to properly fit the card. Importantly, in the original, all the plants were within the card's rectangle. They were placed in a special place, which made them visually more pleasing. On the positive side, the colors are truly vibrant, pleasant, and rich. Zombie deaths also seem to look more or less normal, although I've seen them elsewhere appear more abrupt and crude, suggesting this detail was fixed later. Among other things, the remaster originally lacked dynamic soundtracks, which was noticed by the game's original soundtrack composer. She complained that such a simple technology as dynamic soundtracks was removed, even though her music was intended specifically for this type. What's the dynamic soundtracks? Well, in the original Plants vs. Zombies, when a wave of zombies arrived, the music would smoothly transition from a normal sound to a more dynamic one, using more instruments to convey the atmosphere of a massive zombie attack. Initially, in Replanted, the music played at full power, which was immediately noticeable and quite unpleasant. This was later changed, and the game now features a dynamic soundtrack. To be fair, it still doesn't work quite as well as in the original. The visual glitches are actually less noticeable during the gameplay because the player spends most of their time looking at the lawn, where the plants look more or less normal, rather than the plants at the plant roster. On the other hand, it's a real eyesore and certainly shouldn't cost 20 bucks. So, next. When choosing plants, not only do the cards look crooked, but the plant selection animation is also horribly abrupt and clumsy. Incidentally, the influence of the console version is also evident here. After receiving the almanac, you can enjoy the brilliant AI design of plants and zombies, as well as additional content that... and it's not even real. Let's start with the fact that most of the content here has long been known and is floating around the internet. But, oh well, they wanted to show off the work, so be it. But what about this sheet? One of the original game's developers who worked on the concepts admitted that these concepts weren't even presented during the game's development. Where they got them from is unknown. Maybe they also generated them by using AI to visually create more content, lol. Another detail related to the almanac that I think I'm the only one who noticed is that in Replanted, when you encounter a new zombie, you can immediately go to the almanac and read its full description, thereby thereby immediately understanding its mechanics. In the original, you could only see text stating that the zombie hadn't been encountered yet. Furthermore, in the original, you can click on the zombie and it will immediately take you to the almanac page. This doesn't work in Replanted. Is there anything good in the game? Well, yeah, probably. Let's take a look. Oh, here! This speed up button, for example, it's actually a really useful thing. I played the entire game at 2x speed because it was so much more convenient. It's good that they brought this feature from Plants vs. Zombies 2 here. It's long overdue. As I played through the game, I gradually began to get used to its visual style. And let's be honest, it looks great. On my monitor, the game looks quite rich, bright and high quality. In some places, it's much more enjoyable than staring at the pixels in the original game. However, the $20 price tag isn't justified by all that, considering the original game costs about $5. The main game, unsurprisingly, is unchanged from the original. It's a remaster, not a remake, so let's take a quick leap into the future and see what we get for completing the game. If you want to support me with more than just liking and subscribing, consider checking out the link in the description. There you can donate any sum of money starting from $1. Any donation is appreciated. Thank you in advance. First, a song. It's just beautifully packaged here on a retro TV, but video is still the same, so nothing has changed. After completing the game, we will have access to various minigames, bonus levels, a cloudy day mode, and a new RIP mode. See, Black? How much extra content they've created, and you're saying the game isn't worth the money. Shh, okay. No need to make excuses for them, you haven't even seen the levels yet to judge. Let's start with RIP mode. It's essentially a one life mode. Yes, there is a main campaign, but losing is unacceptable. The situation is further complicated by the fact that you only have one lawnmower, so you shouldn't count on them either. The mode is simplified by the fact that absolutely all plans from the adventure mode are available, but the levels themselves have many more zombies attacking the house. Visually, everything here is purple. I really like how menacing it looks. The color scheme is beautiful, perfect for a more challenging game mode. Cloudy Day consists out of 12 levels set in different locations throughout the game. Sunflowers here produce smaller suns, and small suns also occasionally drop from the sky. Sometimes the weather turns rainy, briefly cutting off access to the sun. Overall, it's a fun mode with slightly different weather conditions. It's worth mentioning here that most of the added levels are released versions of levels that weren't included in the final version of the original game, some of which were already made by the fans a long time ago. Bonus levels are a collection of cut levels like these. And I have a question. Do we really need 3 different art challenges in the game? Really? A star, a nut, a sunflower, they're literally the same thing, just different plants, what's the point? Most of these minigames were cut for a reason, because they were either terribly boring or simply didn't make sense. For example, what is this? Just a field filled with nuts with pea shooters on the conveyor belt. Seriously? Yes, it's a very fun minigame, thank you very much. By all means, it's idiotic. But Black, this is exclusive content, this is something new. Shut up! This is a hack work. That's all. Even if they recreated unreleased levels, that's already been done before, and they haven't really come up with anything new that could be considered exclusive. The puzzles are the same too, Wastebreaker and I'm Zombie, which are generally fine as usual. I like them, especially I'm Zombie. I love that minigame. The minigames are also stable. Black, there is also the Great Wall of China. I know! And you have no idea how upset I was by this level. And yes, you heard me right, that's a level. It's not even a location, and they could have just ported the location from the Chinese version of Plants vs. Zombies. It wouldn't have been that hard, right? At least it would have been something new for the rest of the world, because we're supposedly not supposed to have access to the Chinese version. Oh, never mind, these people were too lazy to make a remaster without visual bugs. What am I even talking about? Speaking of bugs, do you think that those stupid lawnmowers are the end of it? What do you think? I have no idea how or why that happened. The game just crashed and I couldn't exit the shop. Absolutely brilliant. Why not, right? And this isn't the only bug in the game. People complain about similar things in Steam reviews. Thankfully, I haven't encountered any more bugs, but I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest. A little more about visual idiocy. What is this? Why did my cabbage pult suddenly turn into the cabbage pult from Plants vs. Zombies 2? No, maybe it's a reference and I'm just missing something, but it looks really bad because it's so out of place. It's immediately obvious how different the styles of the two games are. I'd like to believe it's just a reference, not a stupid visual glitch that spoils the cabbage pult skin. Something similar happens with the Disco Zombie backup dancers, but at least there is generally useful reference to the old design, and it looks okay. I completely forgot to mention that. Firstly, the retro skin conveys 1.5 plants and 1.5 zombies. Thank you very much. Was it that hard for you to use zombies from the arcade machine in part 2? Or at least make all the base zombies pixelated, not just the regular ones? What the hell is that? Is that so hard? Secondly, this is weird. Black, it's a head crab. Thanks, I see it's a head crab. You might consider this a nitpicking, but it seems odd to me that none of the sketches featured the hind legs that were created in the final version. Sure, they look more accurate to the original version, but usually at least one sketch with them was bound to pop up during the development. And I think it's important to mention that. It's just weird, that's all. Plus, as we know, developers already include things that weren't actually part of the development process. Overall, looking at some of these images among extra content, I wonder if this was AI generated. I really hope I'm wrong, but looking at all this disgrace, it's hard to believe there is even an ounce of honesty here. So, what's the bottom line? Does the game accomplish its core mission? Yes and no. On one hand, it does look beautiful and vibrant. On the other, the AI really messed things up, and they didn't even scale it properly. Essentially, the game fails at its core mission. Let's put it this way. We live in a world where artificial intelligence has become a part of our lives, and there is nothing you can do about it. AI is a great tool that can't work without humans. It needs to be tweaked, not just mindlessly shoved into everything. I think what really pissed people off was the lies that followed. We didn't use AI, what are you saying? Yeah, right. We noticed you weren't using it, damn it. And you know what? This price of this $20 fucking dollars. 20! For what? For the AI? For the visual bugs? For the regular bugs? For the extras, which aren't even remotely new or unique? Why the fuck should I give you my $20 for, dear PopCap? The ceiling for this game is $10, maybe $15, and that would be too much. It's better to buy the original game, even if it has bad resolution and looks like a bunch of pixels on the screen. It will be better, more soulful, and at the very least it will work for the money. So, Black, what's all this for then? The answer is simple, my dear viewer. To make more money. Play on the love of old fans and, if possible, lure young people to a dying franchise. Because just a couple of weeks later they made an official TikTok. Oh well, why not, right? There is no love for the franchise or its fans here. There is only an idiotic desire to profit from nostalgia. And that makes me even angrier. What do you think about this situation? Maybe I missed something or didn't say it right away. You can correct me in the comments. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice one. Bye!